Frieren is savage. Episode 13 of Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Frieren has another savage moment, and it's not her blasting something, it's literally her emotionally damaging somebody. The opening segment of this episode just got me way too good. I just love that transition of this guy telling his whole life story, and I honestly was like, wait, did I miss something at the end of the last episode? Like, who is this dude, and why is he telling her his entire life story? I figured it was kind of going to be one of those ones where it jumps back to something, but no, just randomly ran some guy, and this guy is literally sinking in this sink pit, and he's just asking for help, telling his whole life story up to the point that it says why he's out there. Oh, I'll think about it. I'll think about saving you. I don't want to get dirty. Oh wait, I have a spell for this. What was this spell again? It was super good. I just love that little intro. But yeah, absolutely love this episode. Now there is a side of me that is kind of a little bit let down as to, I won't say how simple Sein's story is, but it is kind of one of those stories that, despite the fact that it does seem simple, it's that build up of regret. When you make a decision and you think that it's justified and your heart's in the right place for it, but over time it turns into something that kind of shackles you down. I made this decision back here and I can't give it up now because I've done this. I made the decision to stay with my brother, and then I chose to give up this opportunity. And now, I didn't do it back then, so why would I do it now? And I think that that's kind of something that can shackle some people down. It's obviously what did for Sein, and it's something that Frieren herself even sees. I thought the moment that she said my own kin, I was like, don't tell me this guy's going to take off his ears and suddenly boink, these big elf ears pop out. No, it's literally she sees herself in Sein. And I like that. I like at least seeing some sort of relatability that Frieren has with somebody. And it ultimately turns into the reason why she pushes so hard, because, let's face it, any other situation, Frieren would probably give up. She'd be like, whatever, I'm out of here, I'm tired, I'll either read a grimoire or I'll go somewhere else. But yeah, she put herself into it. She drove herself into it. But yeah, before I get into all that stuff, I had a lot of fun with this episode. It really did feel like a bit of a step back from either action or just way heavy drama. There is some drama in here, but it's not heavy, and I like that. Just a nice little breather episode to introduce, I'm assuming Sein's going to be a regular in the party. I thought it was going to be just Frieren, Fern, and Stark, but apparently, possibly, this will be their hater joining the group, which did technically make me curious. I mean, there's a lot of emphasis in this episode about Fern and Heiter. Obviously, she respects Heiter. Heiter is like her father, and she looks up to her father a lot. And it's funny how you have all these little moments where she honestly speaks very highly of Heiter. Like, she really does respect him. And so anytime it comes to a discussion about a priest, she's defending Heiter. Despite the fact that he was a drunk, despite the fact that he doesn't act like a priest, he's a corrupt priest. Fern sees him as respectful. Even when kind of comparing him to Sein, she's like, well, Sein gambles. That's the camel's back right there. Sein gambles. And she seems to hate gambling. She really doesn't like gambling. Has like this stink eye to Sein because he gambles. He smokes, drinks, but gambling, no. That's a no-no. And even when it comes to the idea of alcohol, she's like, well, alcohol is a great medicine. So even then, he's a devoted priest. Heiter was a devoted priest. But gambling, no. He never did gambling. But it's funny because I never really thought about it, but despite the fact that Fern is so devoted to Heiter, and you constantly see her talking highly of him, and especially with this whole comparison to Sein, it's curious to think that she never was taught priest skills. Like, she was never raised as a priest. And I never really actually thought about that. Why wasn't Fern raised as a priest? My assumption was that Heiter, seeing how powerful Frieren was, knowing that he was going to have to leave Fern behind, chose to go out of his way to train her as a mage. And yes, early on, the assumption was that because he knew that eventually he was going to push Fern onto Frieren. He wanted Fern, he wanted somebody to be with Frieren after he passed away. And that was through Fern. But again, why not teach her what his skills knew? It's obvious that magic in general is a common concept. You have a mana pool and you cast a spell. It's the same for priests and mages. But it's what spells you specialize in is what makes you what you are. As we see in this episode, when Stark gets bit by a venomous snake and it started blood coming out of his nose. Well, Eisen said you can push through these poisons. I'll be fine. It's like, no, you got blood coming out your nose. We need to get you some help. But Frieren is using a spell on Stark to identify the poison. And she's saying, this is a spell that I know, but priests specialize in it. I like that little development in the magic itself. That Frieren can cast it, but she doesn't know what it's saying. It's emitting a color that she doesn't recognize. And the assumption is that priest would actually take the time to study and perfect knowledge of what every single one of those reactions are to know how to counter it. So it is kind of an interesting thing to note that despite the fact that Frieren knows that magic, because she's obviously studying every type of magic, she loves magic, she doesn't know the ins and outs of it. So it's kind of a curious thing there. But again, it's curious that Fern never learned it. It kind of goes into my theory, the idea that Frieren herself defeated the Demon Lord. I'm convinced at this point that Himmel, Heiter, Eisen, and Frieren went to the Demon Lord, and the idea that Himmel didn't even pull the hero's sword. I don't think that they had the power to do it, but they were her comrades. But Frieren had the only thing that was, like, out of the norm. Like, she was... Like, this is a Demon Lord that nobody has been able to defeat. And Flamel, like, raised Frieren for the sole sake of destroying the Demon Lord. So when Frieren steps up there to the Demon Lord and Himmel and all them are fighting, Frieren's the only one that the Demon Lord's going to see and go, her aura is terrible, and then she blasts him. And I think that Heiter probably seen that and wanted to raise Fern to be able to protect herself when he passes, and yes, wanted somebody to be with Frieren. And so I think that's why he raised Fern to be a spellcaster, a damage dealer, not a priest. But yeah, that's when they go to the town. Sein comes out and immediately heals Stark, showing how OP he is. And yes, Frieren kind of taking note of, he's really skilled. Why is he here? Through bits and pieces, we're obviously seeing that Sein had made a decision at some point in his past. Getting that whole story that, yes, Heiter at some point was visiting all the towns for presumably the church itself and was appointing people. And he came there and he appointed Sein's brother to essentially have this status within the town. And yes, Heiter invited his brother to actually come to the main capital, said that he was skilled enough to come there. But he chose to stay for Sein. And Sein, hearing this, felt like obligated to have to stay there. My brother gave up everything to raise me because our parents are dead. He gave up everything to stay in this town because he felt it would be bad to relocate him from this town and thus he'd lose his friends. And so I can't leave. He gave up all this for me. And if I leave, that would be disrespectful to him. I love the punchline at the end. Oh, that was super good. I am not you. I don't regret what I chose. You do. You regret that you stayed here. You regret that you didn't go with your friend because you felt the necessity to stay with me. I didn't regret any of this. It was super good. It was kind of a nice little punchline at the end of it. Even though, again, I think it is kind of a simple concept, it at least is delivered really impactfully. But yes, I like the tie-in with that story to Frieren. And again, I've never really technically thought about this in the idea that when Frieren was, training herself over all those years, after Flamel had passed away, she was training herself. But I always thought that she was kind of just sitting there waiting. And yeah, technically it makes sense. Why didn't Frieren go defeat the Demon Lord at any time? Like, why was she there? The assumption at the time was that she was waiting for a hero to come by to take her, like a party to come and get her. But that doesn't make any sense if you actually think about it. It's kind of one of those things that I never really thought about. Why is Frieren just out here in the middle of nowhere, just waiting? Yeah, it seemed like Frieren herself, again, similar to Sein, felt that she lost the opportunity. Like she lost her chance. She lost that time. She lost this time that she can't get back. She waited too long. She should have gone a long time ago to defeat the Demon Lord, but she never did. She just sat there and she waited until the point where it became sort of the regret that caused her to wait even longer. It was literally Himmel pushing her to go. It wasn't that Himmel came by and said, all right, let's go. And she's like, I've been waiting for you. Let's go. No, Himmel legit said, you're coming with us. Like the now. Come, let's go. What are you waiting for? She did specifically say that she deferred the decision for a long time, specifically because she felt that it was possibility that she was afraid of the Demon Lord, to fight the Demon Lord. Like at some point, she technically hadn't fought a demon for 500 years up until that point. And she was afraid that, I don't know, it doesn't really go into the details, but it could be the possibility that she doesn't think that she's powerful enough to defeat him. And I think that can be something they can possibly get into in the future, and the idea that she was trained by Flamel, and she knew how powerful Flamel was, but Flamel never defeated the Demon Lord. And that could have been possibly something that shackled her down. And the idea that if she never did, how can I? Because they've already indicated the idea that Flamel had a party. Flamel had a party that she was with that she lost. And maybe there's a possibility that Flamel tried to go to defeat the Demon Lord and she failed. And she's the only one that survived. She says that she wanted to visit them, or she visited them at some point. That's why she knew about heaven, is that she wanted Frieren to go there as well. So yeah, by all accounts, Flamel probably was defeated, and that's why she trained herself to, that's why probably why she hates demons so much. And so she trained Frieren to do it. And again, Frieren could have seen, well, my master couldn't do it. How could I? And so that probably was a thing that kept her away, made her feel like she wasn't powerful enough for it. Or it's a possibility that she tried once before. But either way, she's been sitting there for 500 years, and that regret has built up. Well, I didn't go. I haven't fought in a long time. I'm probably not powerful enough. And I think that I might be afraid to fight him. And again, that could play into the idea that Frieren might feel like if I fail to defeat the Demon Lord, it might not be an idea that she's afraid of the Demon Lord, but more an idea that she's afraid to lose. She's afraid that all this training and everything that was instilled upon her by Flamel might go to waste. She doesn't want to waste that life. She doesn't know how to vocalize it, essentially. But yeah, it kind of plays into both scenarios and the idea that with Frieren, Himmel had to tell her, I'm not talking about what you wasted. I'm not talking about the 500 years that you wasted. I'm not talking about what you did in the past. Now, do you want to go with us? Go now. And that's kind of something that Frieren has to kind of instill upon Sein. Stop thinking about the fact that you didn't go with your friend 10 years ago. To stop thinking about the fact that you might have to leave your brother. Stop thinking about all this time that you wasted, this regret. Stop thinking about that light that you've lost that you now see in us that you can't regain. Now, do you want to go? Again, it's a very simple message, but a very powerful message. It's kind of one of those messages where I think people don't really don't empathize with unless they've kind of gone through it. This idea that because you missed this opportunity, you give up other opportunities because you feel, well, it didn't work then, or I'm kind of stuck in this rut. I'm here because I made that mistake, and thus I feel like I need to be here. But no, it was very curious to see how Frieren so personalized that, and the idea that when the moment she finds out that Sein has this holdback, something that's holding him back, this regret, it pushes her to want to push even more. Like, she says, yeah, you confirmed it. I don't like you. She doesn't like herself in that situation. I don't like you, similar to how I don't like my older self. My older self that nearly missed that opportunity to go with Himmel, I hated that old self. That old self that was stuck there. That old self that wasn't moving around. That old self that isn't enjoying all the things that I'm enjoying now. Back then, she was stuck in this one place. She wasn't even going out looking for spells, seemingly. She was just stuck there. And she's projecting that upon him. That means I'm not going to give up, because I want to make you undo what I undid back then. It's that relatability sometimes when you see yourself in somebody, and it just makes you want to fix that even more, because you know how much better off you feel now. But yeah, in the midst of all that, there's so many good Frieren moments, so many good Fern moments. Like I said, the very beginning with the whole swamp and her trying to find the spell. Her with the little cat face when Fern says that she's going to give her a talking to. Love the whole segment later on with them in the whole gambling situation. Stark goes over there to try to get him to join and ends up getting gambling. And Fern comes in there with this. She does give Stark her jacket, her little small jacket over his back, which was cute. But then she goes and gets the other stuff and just holds it out like it stinks or something. Throws the clothes the other one and says how, like, Sein's going to have to learn very quickly how snarky Fern is. And Stark is always kind of like, gosh, what did I do? Why is she mad at me? Whereas Sein is seemingly thinking, gosh, who is this girl? What's her problem? And I think that's probably going to be a lot to do with Fern is probably not going to like Stark. She's not like Stark because she feels Stark is a pervert. He's childish. But I think she's kind of slowly getting over that. So I think what might happen is there's two opportunities here. One is going to be Stark and Sein are going to be the bros that are constantly wondering what's wrong with Fern. The other opportunity here is that because Stark has almost seemingly gained a lot of care from Fern, like she takes care of him. She's definitely big sister. I think now that they've gotten so close, I think Sein's going to come in and be the replacement for somebody that Fern's going to constantly be battering. But I think a lot of the reason why Fern's not going to like Sein is because she's going to be comparing him to Heiter. Like, Sein, because he gambles, this one extra thing, doesn't like him. Now, granted, technically, we never seen Heiter smoking. He just drank. And I think they imply that he likes the ladies too. So they kind of have that similarity as well. It seems like priests in this world, at least those two, aren't nice people. It seemed like with Kraft, but he was a monk. He seemed like a good person, but Sein is definitely going to be beat around by her. But no, that final push that Frieren had They want to establish what he likes, and they go with yes, the gambling, smoking, and drinking. Oh yeah, by the way, also older ladies. How's that gonna help us? Oh yeah, that's right. Like Fern doesn't even have to have anybody bump her. Like it obviously indicated that they were all she was getting the looks and she could feel it. But yeah, she goes up there and does the pose. My teacher taught me something. The guy's like, what was that? But Fern and Stark are like, oh my gosh, that was killer. Don't worry, Fern. If you use that on me, I'd be done for. Like, they all get it. They all get how cute she looked. And yes, Hemmel got it too. Eisen's like, you're a wicked woman doing that to Hemmel. It was good. It was super good. I think that was like one of probably the most clippable moment of Frieren. I think we're going to get one every single episode. Like last episode, we got the whole holding out the potion thing. And this one, we're going to get the kiss pose. But yeah, that little hoo-hoo that she gives him, moment, he's like, what was that? She's like, hoo-hoo. You must be too young to understand, Sonny. She was definitely playing in the old lady thing. But yeah, like I said, I'm kind of surprised that Sein is joining them. Again, I can see him kind of being part of the party as the healer. I mean, obviously we have Stark is the Eisen, we have Fern is the Frieren, we have Sein is the Heiter, and we're pretty much putting Frieren in the position of Himmel, even though one's a caster and one's a melee. But you're getting that party rebuilding, which yes begs the question of, I think Sein will ever actually meet his friend. There's so much emphasis in this episode that he never got to see his friend. He assumes his friend's dead. He said he'd be back in 3 years. It's been 10 years. He's obviously dead. But Frieren, I think through the idea that she's pushing him, go. It's just a mere 10 years. You're going to regret if possibly you could have made it in time. You could have seen him. The idea that, yes, he might still be out there 10 years later, and if you don't go out and see him, you're going to miss that opportunity to see him before he actually possibly dies. Do I think he's going to see his friend? It's a possibility. Or they could possibly just hear about stories about him and his final moments in killing something. That's probably more likely, is he's probably going to hear that he saved a village or somebody, saved somebody by holding the line and fighting against something and maybe bled out. That's a possibility. Just because if he probably finds his friend, he might actually break off from Fern and his team if they're actually going to keep him in the team. But yeah, fantastic episode as always. Looked great. Great moments. Great Frieren faces. great moments with Fern and Stark and all that kind of stuff. It just, I'm kind of curious how this is going to add to the chemistry. That reminds me, the only other weird thing that happened in this episode is this emphasis on like poverty. He comes in with this tub and he's like, it's a really small tub, bro. I mean, it's about only going to fit your hand. And then later on, he comes in with a really small sickle. This is a really small sickle, bro. I can't cut the garden with this. I mean, are they just kind of emphasizing how, like, impoverished this place is or something? But, like, who would go out of their way to create something that small? It seemed like it would probably be more effort to create a small sickle than to create a larger sickle. I don't really know what the hell the point of that whole... Like, I know it's a joke, a shtick that they were keeping throughout the entire episode, but why? Why? Well, it didn't make... It was funny, but it doesn't make any sense as to the logic of that place, other than, yes, that they're hurting for money, obviously. It was very weird. But anyways, that's my thoughts on episode 13 of Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, you did. Make sure that like button down below, comment. Let me know about the episode. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button to get my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list if it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate what it does. It means so much to me. And y'all take care.